example of, as I said, the example of really, if you like, realistic fiction, and to some extent, really to do with this, idea, regionalism, and the idea about Americans being abroad. And I think this is the main big theme that throughout his fiction, Henry James really showed very well. Now, remember last time, I think I stopped. Let me show you where I think I stopped. The beginning of part 2. I'm not sure if this is correct, but can you tell me exactly where did I stop here or somewhere? Anybody? Yeah? Yeah? Anyone?
We stop in page 17.
Oh, 17. Good. Yes, right. So, yeah. Really, I was saying here generally about this, the tragic end of this young lady Daisy, and the misunderstanding, the complete misunderstanding that she received by society, and the real marginalization, if you like, which she also really again received by especially his aunt, Mrs. Costello, and the people like her, or those people like her, in a way, who really were typical, absolutely typical Victorian, 19th century Victorian, women who are supposedly to be rich and yet very classy, and yet ignorant about other classes, and who classify others, from the outside or from the surfaces. Just a second, let me close that window here. So that's why the narrator really and James entirely showed this through her tragic death, because of this really, and you would be shocked, by this ending. Why did he crack? So Daisy represents this question of complete innocence, complete spontaneity, complete really beauty, and she was misunderstood. That's why, she was killed, if you like. And that's why Winterbourne, again, or Burn or Born, really he's in a way a negative contrast to her, a negative image, or contrast to her. He should have acted according to his own, if you like, instincts and intentions, and not to listen to and to obey the terrible traditional concepts that he had, for example, acquired, and he had learned from society, mainly from his aunt, and maybe to have followed certain rituals or or certain dictates of, as I said, high-class society or bourgeois society, which also, as I say, dictates certain rituals or certain standards, certain criteria that men should follow, people should follow, and so on. And really, he paid, if you like, miserably, because when he wanted to marry her, it was too late because she has already died. When he was really feeling regretful that he thought he had really made a terrible mistake, and so on. So the question here is very, really melodramatic and very strong and very effective, really, to be honest, that that anybody would see how she is, for example, seen, is really very melodramatic and very, really tragic in that sense. And again, there's a little twist at the end, a little twist when we see at the end of the story that he still remained in Europe or in Geneva, or as if he did not fully learn his lesson. Maybe later on he will learn that, which was, of course, a sort of really, tragical in the same way. And we have a lot of details in the story here, a lot of things, how, a lot of examples of how the question of class is highlighted a lot. And I think, Henry James wanted to show this, how people really follow these maybe blind ideas about what society should have or should be, and so on. And we see this quite often, as I said, in this situation. If you like, in those pages later on, we shall see how they traveled alone. They went into a journey again to show her openness, to show her character, how they drove in a boat on their own, meaning Winterbourne and and Daisy, and how her mother was, and she didn't mind, and meaning that they have their own standards of social behavior or social tradition, and so on. So again, here, for example, he said that how they went into this about the journey together, Winterbourne and Daisy on their own. Now here I have highlighted some of these. As I told you, I will send you this. I don't know, did I send you that before? Did I?
No.
Not yet. Okay, when I finish today, I will send you this one when it's done. Really, the question here is, there are so many examples, which might be for you a bit, maybe a bit casual, or maybe trivial, or small in proportion, but they mean something about her character being spontaneous, being normal, being innocent, being good, being lovable, being etc., or marriageable. Whereas we see his aunt, he himself also thought, for some time he thought that she was not marriageable, meaning she is different and he can't marry her because of this and that. And that's the question here of the regret and the question of the guilt, because at the end of the day, he felt at the end that he should have married her. He should have done what he should have done, So this is really quite interesting here. For example, notice here there is a little, of course, when they were talking again, when they were, traveling in this little boat, their talk and discussion, you know, shows again her real nature and how she really is a nice young girl. Again, you know, she was saying that I was happy that you spoke to my mother in a nice way. My mother is, again, simple and spontaneous like me, and she likes me, she loves me because I'm her daughter, and so on. You know, there are so many, examples that I said here, really, if you like. Notice, for example, he said, I'm going with Mr. Bone, with Mr. Winterburn, she repeated with the shining smile. I'm going this very minute. Do tell her she can't, Eugenio, Mrs. Miller said to the courier. I think you had better not go out in a boat, mademoiselle, the man declared. Winterbourne wished the goodness this pretty girl were not on such familiar terms with her courier. Again, here he's coming back to the idea that, you know, the way they speak and they treat their servant, and they call this courier, you know, like a manservant. And he is still unhappy about the way they treat him like a real friend. And again, you know, this is to do with the question of, as I said, class and so on. When he said, you should not go alone, notice, I meant alone with the gentleman. The courier looked for a moment at Winterburn. Again, you know, we can see here, of course, there are many, you know, simple things to refer to the whole idea, really, of her own really nice character. Notice here the narrator, what he said. Winterburn's eyes followed them. He was indeed quite mystified. He lingered beside the lake of a quarter of an hour, baffled by the question of the girl's sudden familiarities and caprices. You know, caprices, as if to say, you know, the narrator is commenting on Winterburn as if, you know, he thinks that this girl is full of whims, strange, you know, whims, because caprice really means absolutely whimsical, whim thing. And you say sudden familiarities. But the only very definite conclusion he came was that he should enjoy, you know, deucedly going off with her somewhere. You know, again, notice the question here when you say deucedly means like in an evil sort, like a sort of, you know, evil kind of way to enjoy her company. As if to say he was trying to suppress his maybe funny feelings and the way he thinks of her and so on. So again, the question of, here we see the idea of imagination, you know, he was a man of imagination. And again, the question of sensibility here, I emphasize these words because it seems that he was really in a way thinking that, yes, he's in love with her. So what's wrong with that? You know, he said, come on. You know, here the narrator is mocking him and he's saying he is in a way in a sort of real love and real romance. So what's wrong with that? Notice, you know, the idea about the sensation. And he took in her charming and called from the great staircase her impatience, confiding step, the note of some small sweet strain of romance. Notice again this, you know, some small sweet strain. And I think this is deliberately done by the narrator. You know, this alliteration sets for words, some small sweet stream, not intense, but clear and sweet, seemed to sound for their start. He could have believed he was really going off with her. You know, this is the idea when you say really going off means absolutely is infatuated. He's running away with her as if, you know, running away with her as if, you know, eloping with her, as if marrying her. Again, you know, to be completely in love with her. So come on, we say, come on, man. You know, change your mind later. If you really love her, you know, why should you? Again, as you can see here, the narrator really noticed, the narrator goes on. Miss Miller, Daisy, Miss Miller was highly animated. She was in the brightest spirits, but she was clearly not at all in a nervous flutter, as she should have been in to match his tension. You see, notice here the idea. Really here you can see the comparison. She is natural. She is not in tension. I mean, she is not tense. She is not nervous. She is not, as you can see, in flutter, unlike him. You know? So he has, as you can see, tension. If you like, she was normal. She was natural. She was spontaneous. She was behaving as she behaves. But he was shocked to some extent to see that he's going now out with a young, lovely, beautiful girl, as if he's shocked by her behavior, as if he is the one who's learning. He is the one who is blind and is learning, not she. You see? So that's why here you see the narrator is taking her side to say, look at her, how she is real and spontaneous, unlike him. Notice, she avoided neither his eyes nor those of anyone else. She neither colored from an awkward consciousness when she looked at him, nor when she saw that people were looking at herself. People continued to look at her, you know, to look at her a great deal. And Winterbourne could at least take a pleasure in his pretty companion's distinguished air. He had been privately afraid she would talk loud, laugh overmuch, and even perhaps desire to move extravagantly about the boat, and so on. So in a way, he was worried that she might seem common. Whereas he's classy, you know? And I think this is the terrible thing, really. Notice again here, at the end of this paragraph, notice, his own experience hitherto when young persons were so ingenious, they were less articulate, and when they were so confident, were not so sophisticated. If he had assented to the idea that she was common, at any rate, was she proving so, after all, or was he simply getting used to her commonness? Again, notice, you know, again, picking the idea about common, you know, like being savage or like being, you know, being normal, being lay person, meaning very ordinary person, you know, very ordinary girl. And he thinks of himself as high class, you know. So he was always, you know, in this trouble, thinking, trying to convince himself, was she or was she not? Was she or was she not? You know, if you like, above him, or should be, you know, in a lower situation. Her discourse was for the most part of what immediately and superficially surrounded, if you like, here we say, surrounded them. But there were moments when it threw out a longer look and took a sudden straight plunge. What on earth are you so solemn about? She suddenly demanded, fixing her agreeable eyes on her friends. You see, I think this is funny here. Again, you shall see the slight conversation here. She's saying, why are you looking so serious? Solemn, you know, meaning, what's wrong with you? Why are you looking at me like this? As if you are sad or something. And he said, am I solemn? He asked. I had an idea I was grinning from ear to ear. You know, I was, as if to say, laughing from ear to ear, you know, which is really very, very funny expression sometimes we use. And of course, when here she saying here about you look as if you were taking me to a prayer meeting or a funeral. If that's a grin, your ears are very near together. You know, this is really, I think, you know, you can see here the idea that, you know, this is really funny, if you like, about that. Just excuse me for a second, okay? Right. Okay. Sorry. Now you can see here, of course, you know, he's thinking about, you know, again, you know, the idea that, as if to say, what's wrong with you? You're not normal. You're not natural. And of course, he you know, really, she looks at him, and yes, I think she's right. He's perplexed. He's really worried, and maybe a little bit. You know, he really can't understand her. You know, about what she really is, and so on. And I think, you know, this went on about that, especially here when he said in the next few lines, as you can see in the next paragraph, she said, as if to say, because he's saying, I want to go back to next or tomorrow or something. I'm going back to Geneva. And she said, of course, to him, as you can see, she was really very clear, and she knows what is maybe in a way that he is confused, and he is really mainly confused how to think or how to, you know, to sort of compromise in his mind about it. And as you can see here, what she said to him, notice here what notice. And for the next 10 minutes, she did nothing but call him horrid. Poor Winterburn was fairly bewildered. No young lady had as yet done him the honor to be so agitated by the mention of his personal plans. And again, as if to say here, she was trying to mock him, that maybe you're going back to Geneva because you have another girl, or maybe you have another relationship. You know, she was teasing him, you know, in a way teasing him, and in a way she wanted to know whether he has another relationship, or, because remember, So far, they didn't say anything about their relationship because they have just met, you know. Notice Winterburn, who denied the existence of such a person, was quite unable to discover, and he was divided between amazement at the rapidity of her induction, and amusement at the direction of her criticism. She struck him afresh in all this as an extraordinary mixture of innocence and crudity. Does she never allow you more than 3 days at a time? Miss Miller wished ironically to know. Doesn't she give you a vacation in summer? And of course, remember, really here, Daisy is mocking him, and she doesn't know that if he has another woman or not. But of course, then later we know that she was teasing him. And I think you can see it here at the end. She said it was only teasing, right? And again, he said, of course, at the end here, my aunt has taken an apartment in Rome from January and has already asked me to come and see her. I don't want to come for you. Sorry, I don't want to come for your aunt, said Daisy. I want just to come for me. Yeah, so slowly here we see that Daisy really, as I said, completely honest and straightforward and honorable, blah, 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 blah. And, she's saying, come on, if you really, want me and like me and so on. I mean, all the things, and this is the tragedy about it, all the things that he had experienced with Daisy, everything he had seen with Daisy was nice and lovely and perfect. So why should he listen to, other people? Winterburn took a carriage and they drove back to Vevey in the dusk. The girl at his side, her animation a little spent, was now quite distractingly passive. Again, we go back here, the narrator asking a bit, again, the same thing about, the question here, how his mother, his aunt, how he mentioned this. In the evening, he mentioned to Mrs. Costello that he had spent the afternoon at Chillon with Miss Daisy Miller, and his lady, meaning his aunt, as you can see in her ironical way, and as I said, she does not like that. So in section 3, I think we have another twist. Sorry. Here in this section, he went back to Geneva. Notice Winterburn, who had returned to Geneva the day after his excursion to Chillon, went to Rome toward the end of January. And as you can see here, again, the twist that we will have another view, really a bad view of other women, other society, about Daisy, or what they think about Daisy. And here, of course, as we see the total misunderstanding and misconception of what was going on. Those people who were so devoted to last summer at Vevey have turned up here, courier and all, she wrote. They seem to have made several acquaintances, but the courier continues to be the most intimate. The young lady, however, is also very intimate with various third-rate Italians. You see, this is the idea. He started to receive messages, and maybe confirmations, which are not really confirmations, if you like, by his aunt that Miss Daisy Miller was behaving, in a bad way, if you like, with other people. And she said, notice here when she said several acquaintances, right? Again, when she said intimate, third-rate Italians. Well, again, we can think here of the question of how do you think of people? In what sense do you say that? How do you say, why do you say that? This is again to go back to the question of class in a really amazing fashion. Now, really, as I say, this is the tragedy about it. I mean, I have not highlighted much of this because it's another view. I want you to look at it, especially by another lady, other examples, how they look at Daisy Miller, especially Mrs. Walker here. You can see this this character. I just spotted her name here, and the way they looked at her and the way they gossiped and so on. And really, this is really, I'm saying, the terrible classification, the bad classification, the bad marginalization of women by society, and even indirectly killing, and I repeat, indirectly punishing and killing Daisy to have done maybe what she has done, or maybe what she has not done. So here, this section, actually, maybe I will try to look at those important, I have not really highlighted that here for you, but really it's quite interesting to see this carry on about how she met this Italian, and everybody thought that she was in love with him. Everybody thought that he's going to marry her. Even he himself, when Burn came and he met them, and he was angry, and he thought that that man treated her badly, and so on. But of course, when he decided to come to her, it was too late, because she caught the fever and she died. It was when it was really very, very late. And as you can see here at the end of this chapter, or this section 3. And really the story, I want to finish it quickly today, because I would like to leave this. As I said, I will try to highlight those things for you later today. Actually, I will do it today quickly, and I will send you that. But you see, the idea that Daisy had, maybe she was wrong, a little bit, to have been easygoing, to have maybe struck good, strong relationships with people, or spontaneously, naturally speaking to people. And Mr. Giovanelli is a typical Italian maybe who does not her love way, and he really did not love her in that way. So why should we say that she was shocked and so on? Okay. Again, let me put off this AC. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, there are important passages here and there. Maybe you can, when you read all this, I think, if you like, you can find that yourselves when you read this. But as I say, the idea really is that, again, to say, for example, the same idea. Notice here, we said, I'm afraid your habits are those of a ruthless flirt. Well, the idea really is this is not true. Really, Daisy was not a ruthless flirt. Of course, notice especially when she said to him, I am a fearful, frightful flirt. Did you ever hear of a nice girl that wasn't? No, notice here again. But I suppose you will tell me now, I am not a nice girl. As you can see here, he is in a sense, being maybe cynical, maybe ironical, and all that, but as if to say, well, you are wrong. Really, you are wrong. And as I said, this is the real question about it. And I think you can see this everywhere, I think, clearly done. And especially at the end of the day, when really, when she was tragically killed without being completely known. And this idea of knowledge and self-knowledge and to know people, again, I think is an important issue that people like anyone who misjudged her, really they misjudged her, and they had no idea about her real character and reality, really. And I think this is, if you like, the end of all of this. She was shown finally, in her last days about her death and about her loss, and so on. And I think for all of us, as I said, I have not really sort of really highlighted all those passages for you, but they are clear in a way about the implications and the meanings of regret and association, or trying to maybe to give this a strong implication or meaning about her life and what she's going to do about it. Now, yeah, I think at the end of this, I don't know, did I highlight any of this so far? Because, yeah. Yeah, it's only about 42 pages, and I think this is quite interesting. Well, I don't say novel, as I said, novella, really, which is like a long story or a long short story, which is, if we can use this term. Daisy died. Winterburn didn't learn. Winterburn regretted, but fully, completely didn't learn his lesson. And Daisy remained innocent, completely innocent, remained the innocent girl who can't live in this world, the world of, falsehood and crazy manners. really. That's the whole thing. Well, I really want to stop here because I thought this would be enough. If you need any question, I will be happy to answer, and then I will